Hey guys, welcome to Moments After Meditation once again. The topic that I wanted to tackle today is a big one for me, and I want to begin with admitting that this is actually not the first take of the video. Like all of the other ones have just been press play and first take. For some reason, this one I had to stop like midway through, or I finished talking and I felt like no, I wasn't I wasn't really going into the real core of the subject because and this is connected to the subject actually, and what I wanted to talk about today is judgment, judging others and judging yourself. um, I guess the reason why this is so big for me is that, I had this massive realization just 2 days ago that judging, whether it's yourself or judging others, is essentially the same thing. It's a state of mind that you get into. It's kind of like it's like a virus, and something that just inhabits your body, and you see the world differently when you are living through that perspective. When you feel like this judgment is the filter of what you're living through. Um, and I realized this so strongly when I fall into this pit of starting to judge myself, because I am very prone to doing that, to judging myself about not being good enough, or not doing enough, or not keeping my diet as good as I wanted it to be, or not being social enough, or taking the wrong decisions in social interactions, or so many different things that I sometimes judge myself on. And I realize when I fall into this pit of judging myself, I I withdraw from social situations. I try to avoid talking to people. I get, it starts to bundle up into this massive ball of weight that's just pushing down on me. And these voices, they start to get momentum, and more momentum, and to the point where I try to sit down and I try to calm these voices down, but they just seem to have so much power. I mean, eventually I always get out of this, but like I said, I had this realization that judging myself and judging other people is essentially the same thing, because I realized that I try to live my life in such a way that I do not judge people. And that's what I tell myself, at least. I try to have this compassion towards others. Compassion, when I see somebody in a situation where they are, being arrogant, or they're, maybe even doing something that is what you would consider to be wrong, when they are acting in a certain way, or if I'm walking somewhere and I see somebody on the, walking down the street, and they're just, you know, spending every day of their life just drinking, or doing drugs, and doing something that, in our society is not deemed as accepted. I try to have this point of view of thinking like, okay, this person must be going through something that I don't see, that I don't understand, because that is always the case. We never know people's life story. And I had this strange thought that, if leading into every situation where you have an encounter with another human being, an encounter that is something you would say, caused you anger or something, when somebody does something that, causes some conflict, if you could see their life story leading up to that point, just like fast forward in your mind to the point where this interaction happens, would that change the way you interact with that person, or would that change the way you react to how this person is treating you or acting? Um, I hope that was understandable, because I think in every situation that we face and in every human that we observe around us, there is a story, there is a series of events that we don't know about. And I I truly think that if we were able to see what is behind the mask that we all wear, we would be able to see, what people have been through in their life, then we would truly judge less, and we would react differently to how people go about their lives, how people have ended up in certain situations. It's easy to see somebody who is like, again, the same example, who is just living on the street or something, and have a quick judgment of like, why don't you just stand up and do something about your life? But I kind of realized that, we never know what's behind the situation, behind what this person has been through. And do we truly know in our heart that if we would have the same experience as this person, if that would be our life, would we have acted any differently? I don't know the answer to that, but um, we don't know, because we haven't lived that life. So I think it's safe to say that we should at least give everybody the benefit of the doubt, that we should try to understand people in every situation. And even though, people react in a way that we think like, man, I would never react like that, and I don't understand how that person would ever do that, then um, even if we feel like that, we should maybe, take a step back and consider that there might be something else behind this, and we need to give compassion in any situation. And I want to tie this together with, like I said, judging others and judging oneself, because it's such a sneaky thing. Even though I say to myself, to make myself feel better, like, oh, I never judge anybody, I'm so compassionate, it still gets me. And learning to be compassionate towards others is one thing, and then learning to be compassionate towards yourself is another level, because I feel like that is like the boss of this judgment, level. That, some things that I say to myself inwardly, and some things that creep up on me in the forms of thoughts and emotions, when I reflect on them, I think like, wow, I would never say that to another human being, and I would never, you know, judge a human being like I judge myself. And it sometimes gets, like I said, a really gets condensed into this ball of emotion where I feel like I'm not able to give of myself anymore what I want to give. How, I can't shine the light through like I want, because I am just so saturated with negative judgment and thoughts and emotions about myself that like I said, I withdraw myself from the world temporarily. And I just, to be honest with you, and over the last few days, I had a really hard time with judging myself for not doing enough. And like I said, especially this one, like not treating my diet and my exercise and my meditations like I wanted to be. And I just felt like a total hypocrite and a failure. And these thoughts arose in myself like, how can you ever help others like you want if you can't even help yourself, man? How can you portray yourself as somebody who is yeah, how do I say this? How do you portray yourself as somebody who is able to teach somebody anything if you can't even live by your own teachings? And this is such a painful thing to receive from oneself, because it's a yeah, I ended up in one of my meditations here. I sat down and I just started crying, and I cried and I cried and I cried. And this is when I came to this conclusion of like, this is judgment in its core, whether you're judging others or you're judging yourself, is a mind construct. It's something that just inhabits your mind and gains momentum, and it's something that needs to be addressed a little bit. It's something that needs to be recognized. When it arises within you, you know, recognize it and realize, like, okay, it's there. I can feel judgment towards myself, but it doesn't mean that it has to consume you. And this kind of comes back to this thing of observing but not letting something take over you. And this is a big one for me, like I said, because throughout my life I have judged myself a lot, and I still do. And I wanted to tackle this because with these videos, I feel I do not want to be some kind of image of a person that's trying to be perfect or trying to tell others how to live their life. I would much rather want to be just a human being talking to another human being, and figuring out how life can be lived in a joyful and beautiful way. So this is my thoughts on these subjects, and confessions that judgment is something that I go through regularly within myself, and I know, like everybody does. And if you feel yourself judging others, just remember that, this is a double-edged sword. Don't think you can judge others and be free of being judged yourself. Like one of my favorite favorite gurus, you probably know his name, you know, judge not others, lest thee be judged yourself. And this holds a lot of truth, this sentence. So I would say let's consider that before we decide to judge others, that we will end up judging ourselves as well. And I think we would all be better off if we could just show more compassion towards each other. So that's my segment for today. I hope it made some sense and that you enjoyed it. And sending eternal love to you as always. Have a great day.